Hello everyone, so sorry for the super long wait between videos, my life got kinda pretty busy. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all for the continued support, and actually, while I was in the middle of writing the script, we hit 50 subs, which is totally awesome, considering that I haven't posted in over a month. It would be super cool if you haven't already to like the video and subscribe. I think that I'd like to set my first ever sub goal for 100 subs by June 1st. Also, if this video gets 10 likes by Friday, I'll make certain that I upload the next video by next Sunday at 5 PM EST. For this video, we'll first go over adding room transitions and basic save point functionality. Also, I've decided to make public the code for my game so that you can download it and take a look at it yourself in Gamemaker. That'll be linked down in the description. Alright, with that stuff out of the way, let's get started. Alright, so let's get started here by opening up our project. Okay, and now we want to create an object called obj underscore warp. So let's make a new object, obj underscore warp. Okay, yep, and now create event. And we want to say target underscore x equals 0, target underscore y equals 0, and target underscore room equals 0, and finally spacing equals 0. So what we're doing here is we're creating a warp object that we'll be able to place in our rooms, just like we did with the colliders like this. So we'll have like a warp object, which is, you know, you can just drag in, and then when we touch it, it will go to the places we specify here, the room and the coordinates and the direction we're facing. Just in a few minutes, you'll see why you want to do this next step here, which is to comment in what each number is for when you're facing, because it can be kind of like confusing without it. So let's just add that in here. 0 equals right, and 1 equals left, 2 equals down. Oops, down, and finally 3 equals up. Okay, so that's all we have for the create event. Now let's create a sprite here. Yeah, let's create a new group within our sprites folder here for function, for all the sprites we have for like functions and stuff. And actually, before we create the sprite for that, let's move our collider sprite here under the function sprite, because that it serves the function of stopping the player. It's not something you actually see in game. So yeah, let's create a new sprite here, sbr underscore warp. Perfect. Let's add an image, and now what I like to do for this one is to get this screen. You can do whatever you want, but what I like is the screen. Then I like to get this purple, get the circle tool and do that. Then on this layer, you want to double click it and set the opacity to 25%. Press enter. Yeah, and now we got our sprite for that. And for the warp, we can drag the sprite over here, and yeah, make sure to uncheck visible so we don't see it in game. And yeah, so that's all we need for that for now. So let's create a new object called obj underscore fade. Right now we're going to make a create event, and we're going to actually copy the same exact create code from warp into fade. Yeah, so the warp object is kind of just going to be like setting everything up, and the fade object is going to actually execute that and create the animation for the fade from one room to another. Alright, and so now we need to create a sprite for this. Yep, so let's create a sprite here, SPR underscore fade. Alright, edit image, and we're going to get our fill bucket tool here. We're going to change our color here to black, but we're going to set our alpha for the first frame, because this is going to be an animation, to 45. Okay, so then we're going to fill that in. We're going to create a new frame. In the new frame, we're going to change it from 45 to 80. Fill that in. Create a new frame. In the new frame, we're going to change it from 80 to 140. There we go. And as you can see, it's getting darker, right? So now from 140, we're going to make it 175. Next frame, we're going to do 200. Alright. Then 215. And finally, we're going full opacity, 255. Alright, and now we can go back over here. Let's change it from 35 frames per second to 45. And now we can watch it here. And it looks pretty fast, but in-game it's not gonna be too quick. I think this is pretty good. So now we gotta go back to Object Warp and create a step event. And we need to put in the following code, which is going to be if we are place underscore meeting. So if we're just, meeting the same location as obj underscore player. So if we're touching the player, and then we want to say and exclamation mark, which means not instance underscore exists, and then obj underscore fade. Okay, and then we want our brackets, and in the middle here we want to say var for variable instantiated, and then we want to say that equals instance underscore create depth 0, 0, negative 9999, obj underscore fade. And yeah, that's it. So what this is doing is it's saying that we're creating the fade object, right, at a depth of negative 9999, because that's just gonna be like as front as you can get, so it's not like behind anything, and there's nothing in front of the fade, which obviously we don't want. 0, 0 here are just the coordinates of where we're creating it. Yeah, and so what we're doing this var instantiated thing is we're about to do this little thing here where we say instantiated dot target x equals target x. So the instantiated here is the object fade, and so what we're doing is we're saying the object fades target x, which we set right here. We're setting it to whatever we type as the target x here when we're editing it in the thing here. It might not make total sense right now, but it might be a bit clearer later on. So we want to do the same thing we just did, but for the y, of course, and then we want to say instantiated dot target room equals target room. Okay, and finally instantiated dot facing equals facing. Okay, and yeah, that's all the code we need for the warp object. And so now back to object fade. I actually forgot to add the sprite. Let's do that. There we go. And so now what we need to do is create a step event for object fade, and we're going to simply type if room equals target room and image underscore index is less than 1, and then add our brackets, instance underscore destroy, and yeah, that's it. The reason we're doing this is so that like once you're in the correct room and the fade out animation is done, then we're going to destroy it. The reason we're doing like image index is less than 1 is because the fade out, we're gonna have like set the image speed to -1, so it's gonna like fade out from like 1, which we have here, to like negative to like 0, which obviously we don't have, and we're just gonna destroy it if that makes sense. Yeah, so now we're gonna add a draw event, which is a type of event that draws on the screen whatever like we tell it to inside the event. So all we want to do is type draw underscore sprite underscore tiled, tiled, and then we're gonna say sprite underscore index comma 0 comma 0. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna create like across the entire screen. That's where we're tiling it, since it's only a 20 by 20 sprite. The current frame that we're on, so like that it's across the whole screen, it's the same frame, and we're just gonna start drawing it at 0 0. And finally, we need an animation end event that executes at the end of the animation. So we want to go to other, we want to go find it, here we go, animation end. What we want to type is room underscore go to, which is going to take us to the room that we put in it, which is going to be our target room, right? And so then next we want to say that the player's x coordinate is going to become the targeted x coordinate that we set for each transition, and of course if we're doing it with the x, we got to do it for the y. Oops, there we go. Right, and so now we just need to add some code to make sure we're facing the correct direction when we go through a warp. So I'm gonna say facing as the little comment here. So if facing equals 0, obj underscore player dot sprite index equals SBR underscore, and then we want to have the right sprite for the character. And then we want to do the same thing for if facing is 1, we want to set it to left. If facing is 2, we want to set it to down. And if facing is 3, we want to set it to up. Okay, and then one final thing we need to say fade out and say image underscore speed equals -1. So yeah, now to add these warps to our rooms, all we gotta do is go, to our room editor. We need to get the object, drag it where we want the warp to be. Might want to turn the grid off so you can be more precise. Oh, I should also say we want to put this on its own level, its own layer. I mean, you don't have to, but I like to just to be organized. Warps, There we go. Yeah, so now let's add that back in there. We're gonna put it like that. And you can tweak like the collision if you want for them. Yeah, and then you want to double click on it, or over here in the inspector you can double click on it here. But yeah, so now we want to click creation code, and then you want to go over to here, copy this, and oops, paste it into here. So we want to say that target x equals, let's just before we do this, let's find where we actually want to warp the player. Let's say we're going to put us into Papyrus's room here, and we're going to come out of the bottom down here. So to do that, we can put our mouse here, and in the bottom left, it will tell us the coordinates of where our mouse is. So it looks like we want roughly 220, 220 as our coordinates. So let's go over here and set our coordinates to 20 and to 20. And then target room equals rm underscore paths. And facing, we want it to be facing up, so we're going to say 3 for facing. Oh, I forgot to say x, comma, y, comma, object player. Okay, and I also forgot to say sprite, image index here. My bad. Image underscore index. Oh, and I forgot the comma. Oh, silly me. Okay, so now finally our code should work. There we go. And if I go up here, I end up in Papyrus's room. Although I seem to be in the wrong place. Oh, that's because there's already a player object in here. Duh. So you wanna just delete the player object if it already exists in that room. Otherwise, it's gonna teleport you to where that is. Oh, right, because I forgot to say, my bad, you want to put persistent on there, and that should finally work. Yep, there we go. And so now it's all good, and you can go to the Papyrus's room. Although I might want to make that a little bit higher. Let's say like just 200 for the height. There we go. That looks great. And we can even add a warp in Papyrus's room to go back to the waterfall area. So let's put one right here. There we go. And let's click on it, creation code. We can paste in our code from before. We can then go to our waterfall room, and we can find the coordinates that we want. Let's say 180, 90. Okay. 180 and 90. Okay. And then rm underscore test underscore waterfall. There we go. And facing, we want to be facing down. Okay, and I realized that we already have a player object here in the waterfall room, so it won't work for now, just since we haven't set up like the title screen yet, which will let us actually create the player without it being in like a room like this, where the transitions would break. So we'll just, for a temporary solution, put our player here. Okay, hopefully that should be better. Yeah, let's put Joel back here. Alright. Let's try again. There we go. And now we're in the room. And we should hopefully be able to go head out. And just like that. Yeah, awesome. Oh, I see. We need to make this persistent as well to fix the fading issue. There we go. Now we have the room transitions done, and we can move on to saving. Okay, so let's create a new object called obj underscore save. Yeah, and we probably want to get our save sprite from either Undertale or Deltarune, and we can add that to object save like that. We're going to add event, and we just need a sub event. Okay, so we want to say if place underscore meeting x comma y comma, so object underscore player if we're touching the player. Then, so first I should explain, Gamemaker saves data using INI files, which are basically just text files. You can see this is my sister's Undertale save right here. It's undertale.ini. And you can open it with like any text editor program you want. For example, you have Notepad++ here, and you can see all the data that it has saved, such as the room, which is what we're going to be doing right now. So we want to say to create this INI. If it does, it will just save it to it. If it doesn't exist, it will create it. So we want to say INI underscore open, and then in quotation marks we're going to put the name we want for our INI file, which for my case is going to be disappearance.ini, but you can name it whatever you want. Okay, and so now we want to write data into the INI, so we're going to say INI write underscore real, which means it's a number. And then we want the name that the data will be saved under, so we can just say save1. Then we can say this will be the room that we're saving, and then we can just type room for the room that we're in. Okay, and then we can do the same thing again, INI write real, INI write real, and then this will be under the same section, save1, and then this will be the x, and then we're going to say obj underscore player dot x, so the player's x coordinate, right? And when there's an x, there must be a y, so let us change that. Alright, and now we need to save the direction that we're facing, so INI write real under the same save1 section. We're gonna save it as facing in the file, and it will be the obj underscore player dot face. Oops. Oh, I forgot to set that, but we can just type it for now. Facing underscore direction. Alright, so now we just need to actually define that in the player. So let's paste our facing direction here and set it to 2 just because that's down. Yeah, now we want to actually just tell it to keep track of what direction we're facing. So let's, yeah, just down here we can say keep track of direction facing. Alright, so now we can say if sprite underscore index equals, and then our walk down sprite, we can say facing direction equals 2. Then if it is up, it'll be 3. If it is left, no, if it's right, it will be 0, and if it is left, it will be 1. Okay, so now that's all set, and back in the save. Yep, final line of code we need is INI underscore close. There we go. Great. And so that's all we'll be doing for the saves today. In the next tutorial, which is again the title screen, we'll actually have it so you can load this information when you start the game. And with that, the tutorial is concluded. Let me know if you have any questions below, like and subscribe, and have a splendid day.